Preliminary figures for Monday's box office are out, and it is catastrophic for Shazam. Yesterday I said that a 75% reduction from Sunday to Monday would probably be about the worst case scenario it would realistically get, which means Shazam would have about a $3.4 million Monday. It's actually had a $3 million Monday. The current estimates right now are $3,050,000, so it is an absolutely catastrophic result for Shazam. It is one of the worst box office drops in quite a while. Now, I was a little bit concerned for its box office when the Sunday numbers came in, and it showed that it had a 33% drop between Saturday and Sunday. Now, the numbers were revised slightly, so the drop was actually only a 30% drop, but that is still exceptionally bad. Batman v Superman had a 33% drop from its Saturday to its Sunday figures, and it basically collapsed from that point on, and Batman v Superman, one of the worst runs after a massive Friday in cinematic history. We've got basically the same thing on our hands here, except we don't have a big opening, okay? So we don't have a big opening for Shazam, but we have got a very big collapse, okay? 78% reduction from the Sunday to the Monday, and the Sunday was already pretty bad compared to the Saturday. Now here were the four films I was sort of showing it as a comparison against to keep an eye on for Shazam. These four films plus Shazam opened to somewhere between $53 and $58 million, so they all had a very similar beginning. And Ant-Man, obviously the blue line, the one that's done very well compared to the rest. The Wolverine Fantastic Four didn't do too flash, but they did do better than the Green Lantern, and I did say that the Green Lantern is kind of like Shazam's Batman v Superman compared to what I was doing with Captain Marvel. I was saying if Captain Marvel does worse or better than Batman v Superman. Well, is Shazam going to do worse than Green Lantern? Right now, yes. According to what's happened here on Monday, Shazam is not doing as well as Green Lantern, and if these Monday numbers continue, Green Lantern's looking like pretty good money compared to what Shazam will actually end up with. So on the Green Lantern versus Shazam chart, not a lot you can see yet because it's very early days, but Shazam is the red line, and you can see that the red line was a little bit better than the blue line, and then it sort of moved in across to the right a bit. That is the really, really small amount of money it just earned, $3 million, and that's generally pretty bad. Now, it hasn't quite crossed yet, but generally two films compared to each other don't have lines that change in angle compared to each other. Or in other words, once one film crosses over another film, it generally doesn't cross back. Okay, now there's probably some exceptions out there, but once they cross, if they cross, let's say, for more than a day, or that they've crossed and then more than a day goes by after that, it generally will not cross back. Okay, now some films do better during weekdays and some do better during weekends, so it's possible they could cross back and forth if they have a similar amount of money, but generally speaking, the angle a film moves at stays fairly constant. It's not that difficult to predict roughly where films will go from day to day based on what it did on the previous day. And so right now, again, just with one day's money, just with the Monday's money, it looks to me like it's going to basically cross under it. Okay, it's going to go underneath where the blue line is fairly quickly, if not on Tuesday, on Wednesday. Now, it's possible it won't. Okay, it could stay really close to it and then go up, but generally speaking, it's not going to gain more room. So the best case scenario at this very, very early stage, just after Monday's numbers, the best case scenario is that Shazam makes a little bit more money than Green Lantern in the North American box office. Okay, so it's very difficult to see why it would suddenly increase the gap that it's just suddenly decreased. Now, maybe if Monday had like a catastrophic event, if there was like a terrorist attack or something very bad on Monday, that would explain why, you know, box office numbers are down, obviously, something like that. Or maybe if there was some sort of really big film that was competing with it on Monday. But there's not really any such thing, at least nothing I'm aware of, to really explain why the Monday would be so bad, other than people don't want to see this film. Okay, so essentially that's what's happening right now. The Saturday to Sunday drop-off was bad, and the Monday drop-up is even worse. So results for Shazam right now, fairly catastrophic for DC and Warner Brothers. You know, no good news at all. I can't think of any good way to say what's happened here, other than it didn't earn $0. I guess that's good. It earned $3 million. That's pretty good. It could have earned $0. But $3 million really, really, really bad. Sunday was pretty bad, and Monday now is really bad. We've got a trend of 2 days going quite poorly, the Sunday and the Monday. Now, Tuesday may earn a little bit more money than Monday because Tuesday, a lot of places run cheap tickets, and you do, in fact, see a little bit of a boost. Captain Marvel's been getting an exceptionally good boost on Tuesdays. I don't know really what the reason is, other than just to say that people like Captain Marvel are cheap. It's the only way to really to put it, and they're seeing it on Tuesday an abnormally amount more than other films. So I don't really know what the reason is, but Captain Marvel's getting very nice Tuesday numbers, and then Wednesday and Thursday back to what they kind of do on Monday. But we'll probably see a boost for Tuesday for Shazam because a lot of films are getting a bit of a Tuesday boost, but that doesn't mean it's going to earn more money. So if Tuesday's bigger than Monday, that's probably expected right now. That's not good news unless it's absolutely huge. Tuesday would probably have to double, probably have to get 100% more than Monday to go, oh, this is good news. If it gets a 50% bump, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of what Captain Marvel's had some Tuesdays. So if Shazam goes up 50% on Tuesday, that's not necessarily good news. Now, it could be worse than that. I believe it probably will be worse than a 50% bump. But 50% isn't, oh, this is reversed and Monday was weird. No, 50% doesn't mean anything. It needs a bigger than 50% bump on Tuesday to realistically say, oh, okay, the film is not flopping, the film is not a catastrophic failure. Now, when I say that, I mean relative to where it actually opened. Okay, the film's going to make a profit. I think it had an $80 million budget. It's already made $102 million internationally. It's going to make hundreds of millions of dollars more than here, so it'll make money. But in the scheme of things, it's an absolutely terrible result, and I can't imagine anyone is raving about how much money Green Lantern made. Well, that's maybe what we're looking at here. We might not get Green Lantern money for Shazam. So here we've got a side-by-side representation of the total box office money earned on the different days. On the left-hand side we've got Green Lantern. On the right-hand side we have Shazam so far. Only 4 days worth of Shazam money. And the $3,050,000, that's an estimate right now, but I can't imagine it's going to be more than 20% wrong. I'm sure it's going to be very close, but it would be hard to think that this would be, let's say, $500,000 out. It probably won't be $500,000 out. It'd probably be quite close to this. So anyway, if you have a look, we can see that on the Friday, and the Friday may or may not include, lots of extra money or not, we can see on the very left, Green Lantern had 21,386,523 under the gross, and if you also look at the total gross column on the left, you'll see it's the same number. Now, if we look at Shazam, the first gross number has 20,351,441, and the right-hand column, the total gross, has got $3.3 million more. It's got the 23,676,441. So that's where this 3.3 kind of discrepancy is. It wasn't earned exactly on the weekend. Not that a lot of the money is. A lot of money's earned on the Thursday and the Wednesday. But it's not in the official figures for the weekend, but it is in the total gross. Anyway, so we want to look at the total gross number, not the gross number, basically. So we've got $23.6 million for Friday for Shazam, and we've got $21.3 million for the Green Lantern. Now, the next day, Green Lantern's only got $16.6 million on Saturday, whereas Shazam's got 19.5. So far, Shazam is doing quite a bit better than Green Lantern. That's what you got. Now, if you look at the drop-off on the Sunday, though, this is where the trouble really started for Shazam. So Shazam has went from 19.5 million down to 13.6. Now, I did say a couple of days ago when they had this as a preliminary number, I believe it was something like 13.4 million, I think was at the time. I said that sounded very soft to me, and I thought it would be a lot higher. It wasn't. Okay, so the prediction was not soft. The prediction was, it was about $200,000 off. It was no big deal. And so Sunday was terrible. So I did think that if that number was correct, Shazam's box office was in trouble, but I thought their number would be wrong. It definitely wasn't. And $13.6 million, absolutely terrible result for Sunday. And then if we look across to what Green Lantern did, 15.1. So it's already basically crossed over the top of what's happened. So it's only taken 2 days for a 100% reversal in the film. So that basically shows that there wasn't a lot of advance tickets sold, and so people weren't already going to see the film, and whatever people learnt from Friday and Saturday, they didn't care to go see it on Sunday. Okay, so the buzz or the reviews or the word of mouth wasn't there to sustain an increase, and there wasn't the buzz to allow people to already have pre-purchased tickets. So something like Endgame, for example, it's got a massive number of pre-purchased tickets. Even if Endgame's bad, and I hope it's not, but even if Endgame's bad, it's going to make a massive amount of money for the first 3 days because people already bought the tickets. Word of mouth's not going to get around to stop people going to see it on Sunday because Sunday's probably going to be pretty full anyway. Whereas this movie, exact opposite, there were not really pre-sold tickets, and so Sunday has just collapsed because people didn't think it was a film they want to see, for whatever the reason was. So anyway, $13 million, very bad. $15 million, very, very good result for Green Lantern. Green Lantern only dropped 9% from Saturday to Sunday, which is a very nice drop, whereas we got 30% drop here, which is pretty bad, and it starts a trend of saying that it's dropping down quickly. Then if we look at the Monday, we've got $5.1 million for the Monday for Green Lantern. It's got a 66% drop. That's an okay drop. Okay, a lot of films get 70%, which is not great, but if you do better than 70%, the film's sort of okay-ish, okay, if you like. So I think Captain Marvel's dropped about 72 to 73% every single Monday, and that's not far out a lot of MCU films, but a lot of MCU films also do better than that. So it's sort of average-ish. 66 isn't bad for a big-ish film like this. Even though these numbers are relatively low, these are still big numbers for most films. I think there were 777 films released in the North American market last year. So, a lot of the films get nothing at all. So, the amount of money here is very good. It's just not really, really good. So anyway, 66% drop for these largest films. That's quite good. So Green Lantern had a fairly good drop for itself. 78%, that's pretty terrible. That's a really bad drop from this Sunday to Monday. Now, again, the Monday is a preliminary number. These figures here are from thenumbers.com, and if they're in green, that means it's a preliminary estimate. So you can see the $3,550,000. That's in green. That's not the actual number yet, but it is their estimate at this point in time. Box Office Mojo doesn't have any official figures out yet. They're normally a bit slower than numbers.com from reporting. Anyway, we can then see the Tuesday for Green Lantern drop down from the Monday, but only 2%, but generally speaking, we'll see a Tuesday bump nowadays, okay? So, again, it won't be surprising if we get more than $3 million for Shazam tomorrow, okay? Or, today, but we'll get the report, get the report tomorrow, get the report a day behind. So, it may go up. That's not necessarily a good move. Good news. It's not necessarily good news at all. Now, after that, Green Lantern didn't do fantastic for the Wednesday or Thursday. It's a little bit soft, 3.9 million, 3.7 million, nothing special. Then we got a 59% bump from the Thursday to the Friday. Now, that's a fairly bad bump up. You should really be looking at something like a 100% increase from the Thursday numbers to the Friday numbers. Okay, so 100% is an okay number. It's nothing special. It's just an okay number. Green Lantern didn't go up. Now, the main thing to remember here is I'm saying how bad that Shazam is doing to Green Lantern. Green Lantern did terribly. So all of these numbers for Green Lantern, except for the 66%, which is the worst number here, the 66% for the Monday drop, that's actually not bad. The rest of these numbers are all pretty bad. And this is why Green Lantern earned hardly any money. And all of these numbers look better than the Shazam numbers, which is why I'm saying it's fairly catastrophic that Shazam has died to this extent. So unless this Monday is a weird aberration, Shazam's box office is done. It's basically failed at a fairly epic rate that compared to the $23 million it had by midnight Friday. So the $23 million Midnight Friday, that's, whatever you want to call that, good, bad, not good, but the rest, not good compared to that. So compared to $23 million, the rest is pretty catastrophic. There's no real nice way to say it, that people don't like Shazam and people aren't rocking up to go see Shazam. So what can we really look at realistically for the week now? Well, best case scenario after this bad news is it'll get the 50% bump tomorrow. Okay, it could get more, but I just don't think it will. So if it gets a 50% bump on Tuesday, or again today, but we'll get the numbers tomorrow, that would be $4.5 million. So I got $3 million for Monday, it get $4.5 million for Tuesday, and then if it does quite well, it'll earn around about the same as it got on Monday, on Wednesday and Thursday. So that's another $3 million for Wednesday, $3 million for Thursday. Okay, it'll probably get a little bit less than that, but this would be the kind of best case scenario. And so that would be $3 million, and a $4.5 million, so $10.5 million extra over the $59 million it has now. So that would bring it to be somewhere around about $70 million. And if we look on the left-hand side there with the Green Lantern, we'll see that what Green Lantern had on the June 23rd, that would be the same sort of equivalent date, it was also $70 million, but $70,900,000, so about $1 million extra. Now, I'm saying that's probably the absolute best-case scenario that Shazam could have now. So the best-case scenario I can see after this $3 million is it'll be $1 million behind the Green Lantern, and it will keep going behind. Okay, again, once a film kind of goes behind another film, they just keep going behind it. And there's no real reason to think that its next weekend would have a little boost up and it would earn more than what Green Lantern got on the Friday. So you can see Green Lantern nearly got $6 million on the Friday. That's June 24th on this little list here. It got $5.994 million. There's absolutely no reason to think that Shazam will get $6 million. It'll get less than that. Okay, that's really what we're looking at this stage. But having said that, the $6 million that Green Lantern got, that's a very bad increase from the Thursday. Again, 100% is an okay increase. It only got a 59% increase. So, even though I keep saying it's catastrophic for Shazam, it is possible that Shazam's next weekend will recover, whereas the Green Lanterns didn't. But you'd have to be very optimistic to think that, because the Sunday was terrible and the Monday's terrible. So there's no reason to think suddenly next next Friday would suddenly be good. Okay, or not good, it would be okay. So there's absolutely no reason to think it'll suddenly recover from these bad numbers. It could, but you're probably being very optimistic, or a big DC fan or a big Shazam fan, to just hope that's what happens. But I wouldn't think that something like that would happen. Now, the international numbers haven't been updated. They're always slow and bad to do. When I say not been updated, they've not had an extra day put on yet. There's no Monday numbers for that yet. But the weekend numbers have been sort of more normalized to not be an actual estimate anymore. So it looks like the actual estimate of $102 million was pretty close. They are reporting the more exact figure is $101,997,977. So pretty much bang on 102 million nearly. So the opening should be something like 159.1, I think, million dollars is what the worldwide opening was for Shazam. That'll drop like a few $1,000s. It won't drop much at all. So that's pretty much what the official opening will be. But without any more international numbers, and again, it's difficult to know even when they come in what country they're from and which day they're from, but without any more international numbers, we can't see if it's doing the same internationally. So the international numbers aren't really broken down on a per day basis. They're kind of broken down by country, but not exactly. We can't go into as much detail as we can in the US domestic market. So it's virtually impossible right now to say whether or not the international numbers are collapsing, because it's not got the same level of detail to judge it by. But given a few more days of international numbers coming in, you will be able to see if that happens or not. But at this stage, the US domestic box office is a terrible result for what happened on Friday, just in relation to the Friday opening. And the Friday opening, although it was far better than all of the expectations, it was still pretty bad, okay, for a superhero film. But the expectations were $40 million for the weekend. It's got about $58 million for the weekend, so smashed expectations, but the expectations are very low. Next weekend, I think Hellboy is out. That might pull away some money from any kind of brief Shazam recovery. And then obviously after that we've got Endgame coming out at some point. I guess it's 2 and a bit weeks. So, there's not really any breathing room for Shazam to eke out a few extra percent here or there. So, interesting to see what happens to this $3 million, if it's actually revised up or not for Monday. But again, yesterday I said about the worst case scenario for it's probably 3.4 million. So even if it's revised up, I can't even imagine it's revised above that. And so maybe right now Shazam's looking to be at where I thought about the worst position could be. That's its best news. I don't think that'll happen. I think the 3 million will probably stay as it is. And yeah, Shazam not gonna earn too much money at the box office. So we'll see just how bad it all goes, and I guess there'll be lots of articles saying, take that incels, the old Captain Marvel got beat by the new Captain Marvel, or something like that. Or white men shouldn't be in films, that'll be it. White men fails at the box office, women win at the box office. I'm sure there's probably already articles after what happened in the first 3 days. Now that it's failed further, this is further proof we should not allow white men in movies. We should ban all white men in movies. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you next time.